Today's video is dedicated to Casey McClara. Thank you, Casey. Omnath Locus of Creation versus Olivia mobilised for war. And companioned with Obosh, the Grey Piercer. We have a half decent hand there, so we'll keep that. Turn 1, we get into another land, so let's go for Verdant Catacombs. And I think we're alright to... we could get an Is-It source there. And we've got red, couple of white sources, couple of green sources, so I think Tropical Island is okay. Go for the Birds of Paradise. Then it's a mountain for our opponent. I think here we'll go for Polluted Delta. We can get out a tap land with that. If our opponent decides to bolt the bird, then we can go for Roiling Regrowth and try to keep ourselves up on mana, but as it stands now, we've still got 4 mana for our commander, whether we go for this or not next turn, so yeah, let's leave it like that. Looks like our opponent just passing the turn with 2 mana, so we'll go for the tap land and hope that they don't bolt the bird in response. Get the Jeskai Triome. Okay, and then Splendid Reclamation for us. That is potentially going to be really good. Ideally, I'd rather play our commander when we can make landfall straight away, but then we're only going to gain life from it, aren't we? So I think I'd rather take the tempo here. So let's go for a tempo play in Omnath. And if it takes removal out of their hand, then so be it. Get to draw a card with our commander, of course, and it's another land for us. So in a few turns, we'll be able to get into Omnath again. And as expected, we get some removal onto our commander, so that is Bedevil. And Ephemerate, of course, so if we'd waited a turn, maybe we could have saved our commander. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this turn, 6 next turn. So we go Roiling Regrowth, and then we can make a land with Icy in play next turn, so let's just go for the Valakut here. I was just so embarrassed from the last Omnath Locus of Creation gameplay that I just had to make another one. I missed an obvious Teferi's Protection, I think it was the only card in my hand, missed an obvious Teferi's Protection play, which cost me the game, so going to replay Omnath Locus of Creation for you in quick succession, up against Olivia mobilised for war, and Obosh the Prey Piercer is the companion. Now Liliana Vess is forcing us to discard. We'll get rid of the Temple. And then at the end of the turn it can be the Roiling Regrowth. We'll sacrifice the Plains. Gonna get a bunch of lands out, even if we don't manage to keep any of our decent creatures in play. We'll replace the Plains and we'll get in a basic forest as well, just in case our opponent has Blood Moon. Alright, Worldly Tutor isn't terrible either. Let's get down Icy. And then we can protect Icy with a Tundra, which will draw us a card whenever we play a land. And there we go, get into another land, and it's a fetch, so couldn't have asked for much more than that, really. Maybe we hold up Worldly Tutor, because we've made both our lands for the turn. I think I'll go for an untapped land with the Wooded Foothills. Just in case we get into a Sol Ring or something, grab the Tiger, and we get into Barlaged Recovery, which we could play as a land next turn if we want to. Let's leave it at that and see if our opponent has any removal for us. Now going for the Tutor with Liliana Vess. So they might have a card draw spell in hand where they can make use of said Tutor. Now going for Darksteel Ingot. And Olivia mobilised for war, so they can protect their Liliana with that. So let's go for Worldly Tutor. And our opponent decides to scoop to that. That's a shame. I don't even know what we were going for there, and neither does our opponent. I was wondering about maybe Raminap would have been good, because we can make multiple lands a turn, so probably Raminap there, because we would have had the card draw a couple of times a turn, probably 4 times a turn actually, because it's 2 fetches from the bin every turn. Omnath Locus of Creation, this time up against Kefnet the Mindful. And we don't have any ramp there, and we've got expensive spells. If it's a slow game, then we should play it, but I imagine this is a control deck that wants to counter every move we make, so let's go for the mulligan. Okay, is our opponent going to let us go for a Wheel of Fortune? Well, we'll keep that one anyway. And let's get rid of the Wasteland. Then we're playing first, so we'll get out a Tricycle Land. And Splendid Reclamation for us again. We'll save the fetch just in case. Let's go for the basic and a Mana Rock. And then Field of Ruin from our opponent. And just holding up the mana, we get into some fast mana of our own. So let's attempt to cast that. And they allow us to bring that down, so let's now drop the Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Just trying to bait counter magic out of my opponent's hand at this point. And yeah, I thought that might get it. Going for Dismiss. So then we'll try and refill our hand, go for a Wooded Foothills here. And that can just be a Volcanic Island, go Wheel of Fortune. And let's see what they had. Well, they had a Time Warp. They actually didn't have the best hand there, so if I'd known that, I've probably given them a way better hand here. Oh well. We've got a Worldly Tutor, so we'll go for a stop on the upkeep. Hopefully our opponent doesn't hold up mana and they just go in for the Kefnet. But even if they do go in for Kefnet, they'll probably be able to hold up double blue anyway. Because what I'd like to do is go Worldly Tutor and drop some lands next turn. But I suppose we've got Oracle and Rada available to us that both give... Does this give an extra land drop? No, it's just a land off the top. Well, we can always try and get Oracle into play. And they do go for their Kefnet. Yeah, we can try and get Oracle into play for the extra land. So we'll wait on the tutor for the moment. And there we go. Rip Azusa off the top anyway. So we can just try her here. Because that's another one that they're likely to counter if they can, but deciding against it. So we'll see if they want to counter our commander instead. Yeah, going for Memory Lapse. Put it on top of its owner's library. Yeah, I could cheat the mana cost on that. Let's put it into library instead. Yeah, let's go for that. And then we'll get down the command tower. I'm going to hope that we can get ourselves into some lands on the top, especially with shuffle effects from the tutors. So we'll just lay those lands down where we can. And we need to not shuffle our commander away with the Windswept Heath. Going for 4 mana into their commander, which allows them to draw a card and bounce a land. And they've still got mana held up for a counter spell. 8 cards in hand actually, which allows them to swing in with their commander. And then going for Thought Vessel. After dropping the land again, we lose the flip to Mana Crypt, and we know what we're going to draw into here. So it's just a case of continuing to try and get counter magic out of our opponent's hand. Let's attempt Omnath again. And this time it comes straight down, so I don't think they have any counters. Getting to another land. I think here we can try to get into Raminap. Maybe we should drop the land first while we've got the chance. Gains us 4 life with our commander. Then go for Eladamri's Call. And they allow that through as well, so might be that they have a Force Spike or something waiting for us to tap out into something, and then they'll counter that. Let's go Raminap Excavator. We get some extra mana when we play this land here anyway. And then going for the Snap on our commander. Yeah, I'm actually fine with that. We don't get the extra mana here, but we don't need it, because we're going to ramp like crazy with Raminap and Azusa anyway. They may well be able to counter the Raminap. We'll soon find out either way. Go for a green mana. And now it's time to just ramp as much as we can. Play some fetches. And now we've got Worldly Tutor held up as well. Might as well swing in at our opponent for... is 1 point of damage really going to matter? Just in case they've got some kind of flash creature, I'm not even going to bother risking losing our Azusa. If we lose by 1 point, then so be it. Now a Mystical Tutor from our opponent. And they grab an Exclude, counter a target creature spell and draw a card, so just trying to keep us off of our Omnath. So we'll probably just play out the Omnath next turn. Well, I suppose we could always Worldly Tutor for something and try and bait them with that. Holding up all of their mana, curiously enough, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, so that might be a Rift. Yeah, it might be a Rift. Let's go for a green source with Windswept Teeth. And we'll go Worldly Tutor here. If they want to counter Worldly Tutor, then at least we're getting them to counter on their own turn. Looks like it is going to be countered. That is Spell Pierce. Yeah, that's a good one to get out of their hand. 4 cards left in their hand, and we know one of them is Exclude. Alright, Ancient Green Warden is good if we can get into some kind of landfall. It replaces Raminap as well, so I probably won't play it out whilst we've got Raminap. Let's just try and get the Omnath countered here. And there is the Exclude from our opponent. So now our commander costs 6 mana. I mean, do we just try and get more counter magic out of their hand? They've only got 1 blue held up, but it could be Essence Scatter or something similar. What's the other one? Mana Leak, or could be a few different things. I think we just try and get the counter magic out of their hand. The last thing we want to do is give the blue player time to play. Drawing a card and bouncing a land. So maybe they've got free counter magic available to them. The more cards we force them to use, the less likely it is that Kefnet can swing in as well. So it looks as though we're going to get Omnath down here. And that will allow us to draw a card. Getting into a Plains, we'll just play the fetches from the bin. First one gains us 4 life. And the second one will get us into some free mana. Then we'll go Oracle of Muldiah, have a look at the top card of our library, see if we want to draw into it or not. Might even be able to play it. Rishkar's Expertise, I do like the look of. So maybe it's just a Plains into Rada this turn, because we'll get the mana from Omnath. So we'll just play a Plains, we'll deal some damage to our opponent, and maybe we can bait more counters out of our opponent's hand. I assume they're going to go with Omnath being bounced next turn, go for a bounce counter. We could always get the Ancient Green Warden out before we go for Rishkar's Expertise, so that no matter which one they bounce, we're going to draw a decent amount of cards. Yeah, so we'll swing in with a couple of creatures because their commander can't block. And it's noteworthy that thanks to the fetches during our opponent's turn, we'll be able to deal 4 damage to them again if we want to, but that would put the mana to waste, so probably not going to do that. Yeah, more ramp. Our opponent's not struggling getting into their ramp. A Sapphire Medallion now makes all their blue spells cost 1 less. And then Transmute, Muddle the Mixture. Let's see if this is Cyclonic Rift. It is not. That is Kashmina's Transmutation. Losing all abilities and +1/+1 onto our commander. It's not the end of the world, to be honest. I would like to land the Ancient Green Warden and Rishkar's Expertise, and obviously the extra mana from Omnath would be useful, but like I said, it's not the end of the world if we don't manage to land it. We've still got the extra land drops every single turn. Losing the Mana Crypt flip this time. Got a shock land on top, so let's try and go for Ancient Green Warden. And then let's go for the Arcane Signet. And then if they've got counter magic here that they want to bounce our Ancient Green Warden with, then so be it. We'll attempt a Rishkar's Expertise. They're down to 3 cards in hand, so we're doing a good job. Commandeer, excellent. So that's about as good a Commandeer as you could ever hope for, and they saw it coming, so that's the problem with Oracle of Muldiah. They exiled a Pact of Negation and a Flusterstorm, so yeah, it's typical mono blue counter tribal. Nothing we can do but allow that. So they draw 5 cards. They can draw one with Mind Stone, and then if they've got something like an Opt or Brainstorm, they could get up to 7 and block with Kefnet, so we'll have to be mindful of that. Yeah, let's play some stuff off the top. Shock that in. We'll take a Prismatic Vista as well. Alright, Scoot Swarm is likely to get us back into this one. So once again, we'll have to hold off on the Rada And Scoot Swarm is likely to get countered as well next turn, but let's see if we can swing in with 3 creatures here. Don't mind losing the Omnath, obviously. Don't mind losing Raminap now that we've got the Ancient Green Warden. And Oracle is giving our opponent a lot of information. But all of that goes through, so apparently they can't up their commander to 7 power with an instant speed cantrip of some kind. Going Field of Ruin onto Command Tower. That just gets them into another blue source, really. We'll just grab a mountain there. That forces us to shuffle, by the way. I think we had to do that. Yeah, each player searches their library, so they were forcing us to shuffle there. But Felidar Retreat might be equally as painful for our opponent. Oh, and then they went for a Perilous Voyage, bouncing the Ancient Green Warden. Ancient Green Warden's going to go really well with the Felidar Retreat, so we can probably get them to counter that. Now going for Treasure Cruise, that puts them up to 7 cards again. Our Rishkar's expertise really helped them. They swing in at us for a total of 10 points of commander damage. They're Mystic Sanctuary, so they've managed to get themselves into the late game. Targeted Time Warp with the Mystic Sanctuary, so they get an extra turn here. And going for the extra turn, as you would expect. Oh, and did they... Oh, of course, they get infinite extra turns now, because they can bounce Mystic Sanctuary with Kefnet. So let's just see what they decide to do with the few turns here. Oh yeah, of course, they just swing in at us for lethal commander damage, don't they? So that's us done. In another couple of turns, we'll allow our opponent to do it, hopefully. Yep, there you go. So there's Mystic Sanctuary again, grabbing back the extra turn card. Then casting the extra turn card, so they need 9 mana in total. 4 to bounce the land back to hand, and 5 for the actual extra turn card. But it looks as though our opponent is just getting on with it. So being very respectful to our time here as well as their own. Our game plan here would have been to go for the Felidar Retreat, like I said, and maybe Ancient Green Warden as well, and double up on a bunch of token production. But yeah, the fast mana our opponent got, along with countering the Rishkar's expertise, has got them this one, I think. So this will be the last attack for our opponent. Good game to them. And there we are, going down to 1 point of life and 25 commander damage. And of course we had a Path to Exile on top. Yeah, so I think a few things just went right for our opponent there, unfortunately, and in typical blue fashion they're just able to control the game long enough to get something like that going. Hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit to Omnath Locus of Creation. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.